Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome back to Worldbuilders Weekly. I'm Zay, the Assistant Director of Worldbuilders.
Hi, and I'm Zoe, the graphic designer for Worldbuilders.
Every week you guys come by and we get to talk about trivia, some nerdy tangents, plenty of geeks doing good stories, and today we get to have Heifer International joining us. Thank you, Rosa and Jason, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
We'll get through our trivia real quick, guys, and then we have abundance of questions for Heifer. If any of you have curious for things to ask them, please throw some questions down in the chat, and we'll do our best to incorporate that into the stream today. Right now, as we're speaking, we have broken $900,000 for our fundraiser. Thank you so much, community. That is so exciting. We're very proud of you guys, and we're very proud of our team back here. So just first things first, really quick thank you to Die Hard Dice. Thank you for your role in our fundraiser. Thank you for that pun, Zoe. And for the giveaways that you offered to our games and streaming. That was really great, and everyone had a lot of fun with that. Jumping right into Trivia Tuesday. All right. This was one of my favorite questions we've had so far. So from last week, Trivia Tuesday, the cheat code first appeared in 1986 film release of Gradius, but was made popular by the NES or NES game Contra. What is the button sequence one would need to enter and activate the now famous code? So what was that cheat code? If anyone wants to answer, because this is our old one, feel free to throw it into the chat really quick. And then for the new one, make sure it hits our DMs. And the answer to that was up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. All right. Zoe, do you want to grab our next trivia question?
Sure. Our next trivia question is, after World War II, Heifer International sent livestock to families in Europe. More than 7,000 men and women accompanied the shipments of livestock. What was the name given to the people who cared for the animals during the journey? And also, just don't forget, please don't answer in the chat. We would like you to send us DMs on any of our media. That would be great. Don't answer just like in Facebook either, or any of those kind of social posts. Thanks.
All right, guys. So yeah, that's a fun one. A little more Heifer oriented and a little less game code oriented there, and that's fine. All right. So just jumping into our conversation here, guys. If you don't mind, could you introduce yourselves for the people in the chat?
Yeah, Rosa, you want to go first?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, World Builders. Thank you for having us. My name is Rosa Rodriguez. I am from Ecuador. Right now, I am in Quito, and I am Ecuador Country Program Director for Heifer, Ecuador.
I'm Jason Woods. I'm a writer and editor for Heifer International, based in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Awesome. And I'm just really excited to have you guys here. Like we said, we've reached $900,000. Thank you to our community. I am curious, when we have this amount of money, when you see like 900,000, what are the kind of the first things that come to mind as far as the capabilities with your programs? And feel free to answer minutely or broad strokes.
Yeah. Well, I might. Do you want to go first, Rosa, or do you want me to go first?
Oh, no, please go ahead. Go ahead. I compliment.
Well, I might give you sort of an example of what a project looks like at Heifer. So I'm going to use the example of a project called Hatching Hope, and the money isn't necessarily going to this project. This is actually a project funded by the company Cargill. But this is a good example of kind of what a Heifer project would look like. So in Hatching Hope, it is a poultry project, so chicken and eggs in Mexico and Kenya and India. And so we give farmers, mostly women, the tools that they need to start and grow a poultry business. Like chickens, there's a low barrier to entry. You don't need a whole lot to raise chickens, and so it's an easy way to get into agriculture and make it into a business. And so obviously the meat and the eggs will help the nutrition of the families who are raising the chickens, but there's so much more that also happens. So we connect them to markets like hotels and restaurants so that they can sell more of their product and they can grow their business. We give them access to low interest loans so that they can grow their business in that way and have more access to the agricultural tools and supplies that they need. We help provide access to agricultural health services like vaccines for the birds. In some cases in India, in this project, we've established a mill for grinding up the feed for the chickens. And so that's not only helpful and cheaper for farmers to feed their own chickens, but then they can sell that as an extra source of income. And then through this market, the farmers are selling their eggs and their poultry in the community, so even more people have access to that nutrition. So in the end, what we're hoping to do is we use the term living income a lot. So we want our farmers not just surviving but thriving. We want them to be able to live in nice housing and to send their children to school and to have a savings account so that if something happens like a disaster, that they have a source of income to make sure they're resilient to those things. And so in this particular project, egg production's actually increased during COVID, which is great. But I guess I wanted to use that as an example to show that we try to build programs with communities and meet their needs, and it's important to fight hunger and poverty, but it's a whole system that's built around these communities.
Yeah.
And maybe I can also, if you would like, I can tell you another idea what we can do with your support. And is that okay? Thank you. I think that everybody all around the world, we have some story, something to say about coronavirus or about COVID-19. But I always used to say that this pandemic does not have the face of coronavirus. I always used to say that this pandemic has the face of people who have the most need, the most challenges, and who are the most vulnerable. I always say farmers. And I can tell you how Heifer was able to give a very important response to create a sustainable food system that was the most effective response in this pandemic. Quito and Ecuador, you know, was very well known, Ecuador, because it was one of the countries most impacted for COVID. I think that when the pandemic started, Guayaquil, Quito, Ecuador was in all around the world showing very sad pictures. But at the same time, let's remember that in Ecuador, we have what we call a quarantine. Everything was closed. Nobody could travel. Nobody could go outside. And only the big supermarkets were allowed to open a little bit. But nobody was able to get, for example, fresh food. And then the municipality of Quito asked Heifer how we can help them to put together farmers and some specific neighborhoods in Quito to be able to receive food, to deliver food, and families to receive food in their homes. At the beginning, we were very shocked. We were very shocked because we said, okay, how we can help farmers, how we can help them to keep working, how we can help economy to keep working, but taking care of life. And the municipality told us, we know that Heifer knows how to create this system. So at the beginning, we started creating a catalog, how we can work, how farmers can work in a safe way, taking care of life, and at the same time deliver. For example, Heifer started giving them EPPs, equipments, and also alcohol. We create a catalog, one step, second step, from the harvest, from the gathering center until to the cities. And second, as we knew it, how to do it, because we had a project in Ecuador, the Future of Food project, we could create a new food system just when the pandemic was starting. I can give you more details later because we have a lot of stories, very nice stories how this program works. But for example, we can use the money to keep supporting farmers, to, for example, to make bigger the gathering centers, because we have farmers from different parts of the countryside, and we have different gathering centers where the fresh food is put in. And from them, we also use bicycles, motorcycles, pickups to deliver food into the cities. So we also can help farmers to give more seeds, animals, to keep scaling up this answer, because we have more cities that they want, that Heifer helps them to support with this program.
Yeah, and if I could reflect a little bit on what both of you guys have said, and this is what to me is really special about the contributions we make to you guys is, it seems like when we are donating for a specific project, often the way that we frame things on our side is to kind of give people a solid idea of the program that we're trying to affect. So, for instance, maybe that end result is the chickens, or maybe the end result is this specific thing for farmers, or fresh water. But often, as you guys have said, there are a lot of different little moving parts within those things, that not only does we need money to contribute to those, but then continually affect a large amount of people in a lot of different ways. And it's just as Gray has said here in the chat, there's a really holistic approach to the way that you guys use that money so succinctly. But yeah, and even little things down to what you mentioned, Jason, like vaccines for livestock is not something that, comes to mind when it's, for what money has to serve a purpose when it goes into those projects. There's so many little moving parts that I can't fathom because I don't work on those projects. But yeah, or, people in more urban versus rural communities, like you were talking about, Rosa, that might benefit for contributing to those farmers, that then can kind of impact the people around them. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, we try to look at the needs of the community, and we want to have conversations with our communities to see what they need to be successful. And like you mentioned, Zay, sometimes it's water. Sometimes there's not access to clean water for the people living in the communities, or for their animals. Sometimes we're not a disaster relief organization, but sometimes we work in communities where disasters do hit. like the hurricanes Eta and Iota that hit Central America in November. Nicaragua had only had 4 Category 5 hurricanes in the last 100 years, and then they had 2 in 2 weeks this past November. And so obviously that's something that we need to address before we can move further in a development project and in helping people get to that living income that I was talking about earlier. When roads and bridges are washed away, like that's a pressing need. And so we're in that situation. We did coordinate with local governmental organizations to provide temporary food aid, water, and transportation. And then after that, we restocked plants and provided farming equipment and seeds. And then the next step is sort of planning out what long-term rehabilitation looks like for those communities. So we try to adapt to the situation of the communities where we're working.
And let me just compliment. That is really great. When I heard you said when Heifer works, for example, in some work as a disaster mitigation, we are not working as Heifer only to answer to the immediate disaster. What we are trying to do, I think, in every disaster mitigation project is also to guarantee that this support will be permanent. For example, in the case of COVID or in the Central America, for example, what we are doing is supporting that small farmers could help, could maintain being farmers, because that is the only way that they can only that is the only way that farmers keep alive, not in that specific moment, but in a long or in a middle time. For example, when we are talking about COVID, what we are creating is a sustainable food system, which means that the farmers can keep growing plants, can keep selling, and can get a living income, not just in the 1, 2, 3 months, but in a medium time. For example, right now, the municipality, we have 5 or 6, I think, big cities and medium cities that they are talking about how they can start with this program, because we know that the pandemic is not just something that just happened. It is going to be for the long time. And we say this is an opportunity for farmers. How farmers at the beginning were in the first line, but now the citizen people, they know that they can count with farmers to deliver food each week to each family. I think that that is very important. And I also would like to say that a very important issue for Heifer is that we are very concerned about environment. I think that this is very important for Heifer. We are taking care of the people. We are taking care also of the earth. For example, Heifer is always supporting that farmers work in a sustainable or organic way. That is very, very important. That means that farmers produce taking care of earth, but also taking care of the people, the consumers, for example, and from their own families.
You answered one of the questions that I had on my list.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Zoe. You're just blasting through all these specific questions we have with these amazing with these amazing answers.
What my statement was that I noticed that when I was in Ecuador that that the Ecuadorians just loved the environment and the world in which they lived in so much. So it was really lovely to hear that Heifer is about supporting that. But I did have another question specifically. What kind of things I also noticed when I was there, that there's a big difference between rural areas and city areas in Ecuador. Um, and I saw on your website that you are going to be doing some work with in the Galapagos. And I was curious from my own perspective what you were doing in the Galapagos, because there is a, you know, people think of the Galapagos and they go there and they see these tiny little areas on each of these islands, and there's so much space that they're not allowed into, tourists aren't allowed into. But you drive through it and you can see the small cities that are on some of these islands, and you can see that there is need for things there.
Thank you for this. I love this question because, as you say, when I talk about Galapagos, everybody think only about turtles, and of course, Galapagos is a natural heritage of humanity, you know, and that is very important. But also, it is important to understand that in Galapagos is a place where the people from Galapagos lives. It is not only a touristic, and we have a lot of people also in need, and we have also farmers in Galapagos. So, but another important issue is that Galapagos depends for its depends from the continent to access to food. So, for example, the people who visit Galapagos, they should know that if they are eating whatever in Galapagos, it comes from the continent, and that is not sustainable in any place. And also that there is a lot of farmers that also produce some food. So the agriculture ministry in Ecuador, in Galapagos, called Heifer, and they told us, we really want to have a program that helped us to have a more sustainable agriculture production. They do not want to depend from the continent. So we started a program that supported small farmers that also they are poor families that live in Galapagos, supported to create also a sustainable food system. What do I mean? That for one side, it has to be an agriculture program that takes care of the earth because it is a natural heritage. So it has to be organic. It has to be in agreement with the nature, in agreement with all the richness nature that we have there. But at the same time, that allows small farmers to have food for them and also to contribute to sell to the ships, to the touristic, to the restaurants. So, but in the pandemia, let me say it again, the pandemia, that was a very important opportunity because everything, even the ships, were stopped. So Galapagos was locked down. Nobody, and the first and the unique in San Cristobal way to access to food was the small farmers market that Heifer supported, started 1 year ago, that they said, okay, we have something that we can quickly start selling again more and more. And also when the plane, the flights were allowed, we also could send some more seeds from the lands, and they started to replant. So we quickly give also answers. So that is why when we think in disasters, we are not thinking to give a fast answer. We are thinking in a long perspective. So in Galapagos, together with the Agriculture Ministry, we are supporting to have a sustainable agriculture system and also support farmers to get more income. And we also are starting to sell the food to some specific ships that arrive into Galapagos. That is very, very important for us. This is a very, very nice program, I think. It is a model how we can create a new perspective of food system.
Absolutely. And the work that Rosa and her team is doing in Ecuador is amazing. And I just want to emphasize one of the things that Rosa said in both of the examples. The local government is coming to Heifer Ecuador and saying, you know, we've got this issue. Can you help us solve it? Which I think is so cool. Like they're the national experts in sustainable food systems in Ecuador, and so in Galapagos, the local government approached Rosa, and in Quito, the mayor also approached to figure out a way to link rural farmers to people in low-income neighborhoods in Quito. I think that's so cool.
Because you keep talking a little bit about the pandemic, obviously it's been kind of ruling everyone's lives. And you did answer this a bit, Rosa, but I'm just curious, you know, a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just based on the imagery and what we see in for the work of Heifer, most of it is rural. And you know, I'm just curious if you guys can provide a little insight, both for Heifer and your programs, and then in general, how does that kind of contradict this? You know, for instance, me, this person sitting in central Wisconsin in this not rural. And I wouldn't even consider our farmlands very rural because they're always adjacent to cities and accessibility. You know, what is that like? I guess the inaccessibility like, and the impact of COVID on people like that.
Do you want me to start, Jason?
Please go ahead.
I would like to say, because this is a very interesting question. It is because, you know, the farmers in Ecuador, they know that, for example, they do not have access or easily access to a doctor, for example. They do not have access to soap. They do not have access to alcohol. So when the pandemic started, one very important issue that the rural communities they started to do was to close the communities. Nobody was has the permission to go out. Nobody has the permission to come in, because they know that they have to take care of the pandemic and they have to take care of all the community. That was very important. And that was very important also how Heifer approach to them, but not Heifer approach to them, but the communities also asked us, because Heifer was working already with them, and they said, okay, we cannot keep here without selling, without producing. How we continue, because also they need some incomes. So Heifer helped them. That was the first issue. We create a protocol, a guide, and also we supported not only with EPPs, but with alcohol, with some specific issues to access to clean water, and also to soap and clean water, things like that. Because if the communities get a COVID, we know that that could be terrible. And I think the COVID impact mostly into the cities, but the communities, they have like a community take care. I don't know if you understand that idea. They take care each one from the other. So uh, if someone needs food, they exchange with the other food, for example. Uh, because we have the communities, the rural communities, they have um, a lot of needs, transportation, schools, doctors, water, fresh water, and we have to have an holistic idea of that, how to support.
Yeah, to add on to what Rosa said, transportation has been a big issue, since many of the countries where we work have been in lockdown, and so that makes it difficult for farmers to sell their produce, and then that makes it hard for them to make money. So a lot of our work this year has had to go into the problem solving of that. What does that look like to help farmers be able to sell their produce so it doesn't go bad before they can sell it? So we in Nepal they use something they called the Agra ambulance. So it's sort of the emergency produce van. That was sort of to not only get that food to market, but also to make sure that people had food to eat, because people who weren't growing their own food needed to have access to good healthy food as well. Or in Rwanda, it looks like transporting those vaccines that we talked about earlier. How do you get those vaccines to the farmers during a lockdown? And a lot of that is working with the government and finding the right permits and things like that. Sanitation, like Rosa mentioned, is a big issue, and also education. I know a lot more about COVID-19 now than I did in February, and that's because I have access to the internet and information all the time, and that information is harder to get in rural areas a lot of the time. And so some of our activities are good hand washing practices and good sanitation practices. So yeah, our work has in some ways looked different this year. We've adapted in some ways, but it's also about finding ways to continue the work that we've been doing.
And may I compliment something very nice about this is, for sure, you know that passing on the gift is one of the most important value, one of the most important practice that Heifer always try to keep into the projects. So, for example, in one community, when COVID started, it was one of the communities that some of the families got sick. They asked for if we can support them with some medicine. But they told us, okay, we can't receive this medicine because they really need it, and they do not be able to go to the hospital, but into the communities. But they said, we received some medicine, but also they gave us some products, agriculture foods, from potatoes and some carrots. And they say, we receive this and we give you this. Give this to another communities. And for example, they exchange these products with another community to the coastal. And from the coastal area, for example, the farmers received this and they gave us, for example, fish, because there were another communities that they said, okay, right now we need a protein because we do not have protein. And they received fish, and so it was, an exchange from communities and to another communities. And Heifer helped the communities with a pickup to support this exchange from one community to another community. And that was very nice because at the beginning we say, okay, we can just support families giving something, but this important value, if I receive, I also can give back to another community or to another family. And even in the middle of the pandemic, the communities from one community to another, we were able to keep this spirit. And I think that this year, from all around the Heifer, you can hear stories about this, how this pandemic made think in a different way, in a different way.
I think one of the things that's super impressive to me is that I've always assumed that what Heifer does works well. And I think that the pandemic really shows that it does work really well. I mean, there were other things that showed that, but you were able to do things because you already had the system set up. You already knew how to go about doing these things. So the things that came around because of the pandemic, although they were new to you, were something that you could easily tackle because you already knew how to do these things. You already had the system set up. And that's one of the really impressive things to me. I guess my next question would be, we all know, if you know Heifer International, you've all heard how wonderful giving a goat to a community can be and what all of the things that you benefit from that. What do you think are the benefits that most people don't know about what Heifer does and how Heifer helps? So what do you think are the hidden treasures that Heifer does?
We hope this isn't like a trick question.
And if you don't know, that's okay.
So we've
Please.
talked about some of them, right?
Yeah.
I think, like, in general, I think the hidden treasure is it's not like a top-down strategy. We don't go into communities and say this is the best way to meet your goals. Like, we work with communities to come up with a plan together, because the people living in the communities know best for what is best for the community, right? I think maybe some of the hidden treasures get buried underneath the word training, because it and this is probably the writer's fault, but it gets buried under sort of this catch-all where trainings could be, they could have to do with agricultural practices. So it could be, the best way to sow your seeds during a particular season. It could be have to do with animal husbandry, but it could be training on how to build your small business or accounting practices or a million different other things. So there's a lot of education, which is maybe a better word, education that goes into all of the projects that we do.
Let me complement that. I think that one of the most important issue of Heifer is the strong commitment and the strong linkage that Heifer team all around the world we have with small farmers. I think that is very important because without that linkage, it is impossible to do, I think, anything. And the second one is that Heifer works, we call thinking with 3P: people, profit, and planet. And in each action that we do, for example, we are thinking how we take care of the earth, how we take care of the people, and how we support small farmers or people in need to get more income or profit. So this people, profit, and planet. I think that is a path that we said always never lose that. And the third one is women. I think that Heifer is very strong focus on women because we are sure that the name of change is women. I am really sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of empowering women, especially in places where they don't necessarily receive the same treatment as men. Um, I'm kind of curious from your guys' perspective. I mean, obviously, we haven't ended hunger in the world, but that doesn't mean that you guys haven't contributed to wonderful projects. And I'm just kind of curious, what does it look like for you to see those projects come to fruition? You know, what does that end result kind of look like? And I don't mean to be, specific about the program, but it could be a specific memory for you guys, or one that really resonated. um,
Yeah, I've got one. So one of the great joys of my position is that sometimes I get to go and travel and visit with our farmers who we're working with. Obviously, that didn't happen this year, but a couple of years ago, I had the privilege of going to Bangladesh, and one of my favorite moments was I was interviewing a mother and her, I think, 12-year-old daughter, um, Sadia. And so I started asking Sadia some questions about kind of what school was like, because previously almost almost no girls in the community were going to school, and after the community got involved with Heifer, that number rose to the 90% area, which I think is amazing. And so she was in school and is a great student and really enjoyed it. She was a nerd for school, and so I asked her, Mom, what dreams do you have for your daughter? And she said, Well, I want her to be a school teacher. And and then Sadia just interrupted and said, police officer. And then her mom like took a beat and was like, I want my daughter to be a police officer because that's what she wants to be. So that moment really got to me because it was a mom supporting her daughter, but it was also, there was a little more space to think about those plans for the future, right? Because of the stability that the family had. So I always appreciate thinking about that memory.
Yeah, well, I have very important moments, but one that I remember is a woman in at the coastal area in Manabí. Um, uh, I was visiting one of the projects that we wanted to start, and she was sat up with her son thinking, and I asked her, what are you thinking? And she told me, I am here with my son, and I just really would like a small help. And I say, what kind of help? And she told me, we just need some seeds, and we need just some support to get access to irrigation. And after that, we can handle by ourselves. Well, time when after 1 year, I came back and I again visited her, and I saw how with seeds, water, and animal, she had Lupe, her name is Lupe, in Manabi. She had a very impressive a small farm with many different kind of products. She has orange corn. She had onions. She had also cocoa. She has a very very diverse farm, and also she was selling into the first small farmer market that Heifer helped them to open into the closest cities. So she has a very diverse farm. She has also the opportunity to sell into the small farm, and also she got some income. So she had food, she had for the family, and also income to support the family and her daughter to go to the school. So I think that we can always, we have a lot of stories. What you can see also another, for example, dairy farmers that right now, for example, I am thinking in Luisa is one of the ladies that right now she own a dairy gathering center. So they receive the milk from a lot of farmers, and also at the same time they sell the milk to the big company, and they receive the highest price into the province. So that, for example, it is a very very impressive story also how their own their own business.
I have another nice memory if
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Now that you've got us thinking, you might not get us to stop. I, I was in Zambia interviewing a woman named Omali Dabulo, and she her best friend was sitting by her while we were doing the interview, so it was kind of an interview with the both of them. And I was asking, what's the difference between your life before joining this project and now? And she started talking about her bed and how she can afford a mattress now. And so what everyone in the community did before was they would sort of stuff a pillowcase or a sack full of hay, and they would have to do it about once a month, because they were saying, well, you'd be sleeping there with your significant other, and he would be heavier than you, and so over time you'd start sleeping like this, and then you'd start falling over like this, or if the kid's on the bed, then the kid will get swallowed up. And the two of them were just laughing and laughing and laughing about it. And they said, we can laugh about it now because it's behind us, which I really appreciated. But they, they kept going on about, like, this is how we used to make the mattress, and these were all the troubles that we saw with that. But we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, I really enjoy your guys's like specific memories of specific people, because often in our minds programs are this kind of community benefactor. It's kind of this larger idea in our mind, but every community is just made up of specific people, like one person at a time, receiving these changes in their life. And I love all of the different examples of what those changes mean to people. It's really lovely.
And how important some things that we all take for granted. I mean, probably, most of the people listening to this stream have never made a bed in that way, aside from putting blankets on it. So it's really, it's important for us to hear and listen to the difference of our world versus this, the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have a little? May I have an nice, if we have time?
We do. We still have about 5 minutes. We can go a tiny bit over. Yeah.
I just came to my mind. We have a program. The name is Cultiva Innovación, which means planting innovation, something like that. It was a contest that we asked the farmers, all of each of our projects, if they do have some idea, a very innovative that they would like to improve into their farmers or into the projects. At the beginning, we said, okay, maybe we are going to have like 50 proposals, 50 like that. And then after the month, we have 150 proposal, innovative proposal. Because it was a contest, we said we are going to support the 10 more innovative ideas. And we said, okay, maybe 10, it is good enough because we are not going to have so many ideas. But we have 150, so it was very hard to select all of these ideas. And why I am saying this, because also what is very important of Heifer is that we also improve innovation. And we are sure that also at the rural areas, there is, of course, a lot of need, but there is also a lot of knowledge, a lot of innovation, and a lot of dignity. And that is very important. At the rural areas and the people that we are working with, they are not also people that is waiting, not at all. It's people that want to work hard, that they really keep hope, but also that they have knowledge, dignity, and they have innovation, and they want to change. And that is very important to support this spirit. And so that is, we support with the Heifer project, this innovation, and we have a lot of the youth, rural people improving, because, at the farmer areas, if you talk with youth, the young people, maybe they say, no, we do not have hope at the rural areas, at the farmers. But we are sure that the rural areas also is a place where you can have the most innovation, because people is thinking how we can do to go through the poverty. So that is very important also, to think that people also has a lot of innovation and dignity and strong.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the things that we all love about Heifer is that it's not someone coming in and saying we know what's best for you, because the people that live there already know what's best for them. They just need access to resources that a lot of us, have and take for granted.
Exactly. That is very, very important. We put together the knowledge of our technicians together with the knowledge of the farmers, together with the knowledge of the women. And that is the way to create and to change the world.
Yeah. We are at 1. I don't know about you, Zoe. I could have talked to you guys for 2 more hours about your programs. And I just want to say it is so obvious to me how passionate the people at Heifer are about the programs you run. And it's such a special organization. And for me at Worldbuilders, it's doing this end of year for the first time. It is obvious to see why, Worldbuilders chose Heifer as the, end of year program. You guys just do amazing work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zay and Zoe, for having us on. This is always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you both for coming.
Yeah, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Yes, and
much appreciated.
One more thank you to our geek community. Thank you, our gamers, our book nerds, our cosplayers, every one of you that can see the importance of Heifer's work and have contributed. I will give us one last update. Right now, we are at 103,924. So during the course of this stream, that's like another grand. So thank you, everybody. And we'll give our little special word here. Zoe, do you want to give the special word? Oh, what's that? Yeah. Oh, okay. That sounds great. Yeah, it's this voice from the sky. Jamie, go ahead and talk about our after party. Welcome Jamie's voice to the stream. Oh, someone says they can't hear you, Jamie. Which I
Oh, there we go. Well, that was probably a long, awkward silence from everybody else. Sorry, everybody.
We
I had
can hear you.
myself double muted. I've got to be so careful. Anyway, hello. I'm the engineer. I'm the geek in the van. And I just wanted to, or we wanted to let you guys all know that we're doing an after party to celebrate the end of your fundraiser. So there will be info on all our socials. There's info on the screen right now about it, but especially our lovely, wonderful, incredible chat. We are so excited to invite you guys and to celebrate an amazing, amazing end of your fundraiser. So join us tomorrow.
All righty. Thank you, Jamie. And so thank you again. I cannot say it enough, really, guys.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks to you.
But yeah. Zoe, do you wanna give the landing special word?
Are we using the regular one, or are we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Viva la moose.
There it is, Reviva Goat. Thank you for that, guys.